changes that boating manufacturers have made over the past few years has really changed the landscape and the demand level.
Being broke on your boat is a whole different story.
It's happening right now. Dealers across America are dumping like new boats for pennies. Boats that were new inventory 6 months ago are now repos, and they can't sell them. This isn't a small correction. It's the biggest crash the boating world has ever seen, and your next move decides if you profit or sink. Let's dive straight into it. The sticker that sank. It started quietly, the kind of markdown that looks like a bargain until you read the fine print. In early 2025, brand new 2024 boats began appearing online with 40% price cuts. A $200,000 wake cruiser suddenly listed for $120,000. Dealers called them spring incentives. But the truth showed in the fine type at the bottom of the page. Liquidation event. At a Fort Lauderdale auction, a row of identical center consoles sat under halogen lights, each tagged thousands below cost. You could trace the panic in real time through dealer bulletins, each revision cutting prices lower than the week before. These weren't clearance sales. They were survival moves by showrooms paying daily interest on unsold stock. When demand slows and the loan clock keeps ticking, price becomes a tourniquet. The markdowns didn't mean generosity. They meant the floor plan debt had turned against them. Every drop in price was a warning flare. Those discounts aren't sales, they're distress signals. And the next chapter shows how deep the water really is. Proof of flood. If you want numbers, here they are. According to the National Marine Manufacturers Association, retail sales fell roughly 10% from May of 2024 to May of 2025. Shipments from factories dropped 12%, yet inventory climbed 25%. That means more boats are piling up than leaving the lots. Every additional unit on a dealer's yard adds another line of interest on their floor plan loan. Imagine paying a mortgage that grows by the day while your paycheck shrinks. That's the dealer's math right now. And when they can't move new stock, trade-ins stop, freezing the used market too. Buyers feel it as vanishing resale value. A one-year-old pontoon that sold for $80,000 last summer now wholesales for barely $50,000. It's not rumor, it's math. This glut didn't form overnight, and it isn't seasonal inventory. It's the delayed hangover from 3 years of overconfidence and cheap credit colliding with a consumer who simply tapped out. The math doesn't lie. The real question is who keeps building. Let's roll the clock back to see where this oversupply started. If you've seen prices drop near you or dealers pushing panic sales, hit like and drop a comment below. Every story helps us track where the market's breaking fastest. Pandemic eco-economics. Go back to 2020. Lockdowns froze travel. Families stayed home, and freedom on the water became the slogan of the summer. Stimulus checks, low interest rates, and easy loans turned marinas into showrooms. Manufacturers ran double shifts, confident every hull they produced was already sold. By 2021, demand looked endless, and lenders extended 10-year terms at teaser rates under 3%. For 2 seasons it worked, until inflation hit and rates doubled. Those same buyers now owe more on their loans than the boats are worth. The production lines built for a boom kept running even as orders quietly dried up. Dealers took delivery on inventory financed at yesterday's optimism and today's cost. That's why repossessions are now rising, and manufacturers are whispering about furloughs. You can't turn off debt like a switch, and interest doesn't care that the buyer market changed. The pandemic may have ended, but its payment plan didn't. Factories can downshift. Debt can't. And when the factories finally slow, what happens to the boats already built? Graveyard yards. Drive past any regional storage facility this summer, and you'll see the evidence lined up like tombstones. Hundreds of late-model boats shrink-wrapped and waiting for buyers who never came. Drone shots from Gulf Coast yards show aisles so tight that forklifts scrape hulls just to park the next arrival. Each of those boats represents thousands in monthly interest, insurance, and storage fees bleeding dealers dry. Some have resorted to silent auctions, hoping cash buyers will take units off their hands before the lenders call in collateral. Local papers in Indiana, Florida, and the Carolinas report canceled boat shows blamed on scheduling conflicts, but insiders know the truth. Dealers can't justify travel when their own lots look like trade expos. Every unsold boat sitting under plastic eats the margin on the next 10. And more shipments are still inbound from overseas plants built on outdated demand forecasts. Now, let's talk about where those boats really end up. And it's not showrooms. Repo morning. It begins before sunrise. The low hum of tow trucks pulling away from suburban driveways. Across the country, repossession contracts tied to marine lenders have surged by roughly 30% since spring. Proof sits in lender bulletins quietly circulated to dealers warning that asset recovery operations will intensify through Q3. The reason isn't mystery. Adjustable rate loans written in 2021 at 2.9% are now resetting above 7%. For thousands of owners, that change adds hundreds a month to payments on a boat that's already worth less than the loan balance. Negative equity spreads like an oil slick. Dealers receiving these repos aren't celebrating new stock. They're suffocating under it. Each unit floods auction supply, driving down prices on everything still sitting unsold. What used to be a trade-in, opportunity has become a value trap for existing owners watching their resale collapse. Every tow strap tightening around a bow rail drags the entire market a little lower. But not every used hull should be back on sale. Some of them were never seaworthy to begin with. Ghost hulls. Behind every flood headline lies a shadow economy. After last year's hurricane season, insurance companies wrote off thousands of boats as total losses. Within months, many reappeared online under clean titles, sanded, repainted, and rebranded as lightly used. It's called title washing, and it's thriving. Investigators with the National Insurance Crime Bureau flagged dozens of VIN mismatches in coastal auctions where boats declared salvaged in Florida suddenly re-emerged registered in inland states. Moisture trapped in the foam cores. Salt corroding wiring harnesses. Structural fatigue hidden under polish. These aren't cosmetic issues. They're ticking expenses. Buyers chasing a bargain rarely check the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System, and few dealers volunteer the full history. One former adjuster described it bluntly: "If it still floats, someone will flip it." The result is a two-tier market, legitimate trade-ins losing value beside resurrected wrecks built to fail again. A buyer who doesn't verify ends up paying twice, once at purchase and again at repair. Because some of these so-called bargains were underwater twice. And even if you avoid those, there's still another gatekeeper shaping what you see next: the listing trap. Online marketplaces promise transparency. In practice, they've become toll roads. Lawsuits filed earlier this year accuse major listing platforms of ranking results based on seller fees rather than fairness. Screenshots from dealer dashboards show identical models. Same year, same hours. Appearing pages apart because one seller paid for visibility credits. For buyers, that means the honest price might never reach the first page. Algorithms learn your search behavior and adjust pricing suggestions upward, rewarding higher margins for dealers willing to spend. Even private sellers must pay premium tiers to stay visible beyond a few days. It's quiet manipulation wrapped in convenience. One Texas buyer shared screenshots of two 22-foot center consoles, both listed at first for $85,000. Within 48 hours, the lower-priced ad vanished, while the higher one gained front-page rotation. Proof that even perception is now monetized. This isn't a conspiracy. It's digital leverage designed to keep desperation hidden behind paywalls. Even finding a fair price now depends on who owns the search bar. And when visibility costs money, factories start feeling the silence. Factories in reverse. On paper, the slowdown looks like strategy. Output cuts between 20 and 30% reported by major builders like Brunswick and Beneteau. In reality, it's triage. Regional suppliers in Indiana, Florida, and North Carolina confirm canceled purchase orders and shortened shifts. Where assembly lines once hummed, forklifts now idle. Local news in small port towns tells the human side. Fiberglass techs clocked out for the last time. Upholstery shops shuttered. Diners near the gates closing early. The ripple runs deep because every finished hull carries a chain of parts. Engines, wiring, trailer frames, each tied to its own small business. When the orders stop, cash flow dies in days. Executives call it production alignment. Workers call it layoffs. It's the manufacturing version of repossession. Assets reclaimed, labor written off. And if production stays muted through winter, the ripple will roll back to dealerships struggling for warranty parts by spring. The silence on the factory floor is about to echo in your marina, because when production stops, support does too. Timing the tide. Markets move in tides, not waves, and the smartest buyers wait for the pullback. Over the past 24 months, used boat auction data shows two predictable troughs. The first arrives in late winter, between January and March, when dealers face their highest floor plan interest charges and rush to unload before the spring surge. The second window opens in early autumn, right after the new model year launches and unsold stock turns radioactive overnight. Prices fall fastest when storage costs climb and buyers vanish. You can see it in regional auction reports. Average winning bids drop 15 to 20% compared with mid-season sales. Waiting through the noise of summer temptation rewards the disciplined. The trick is to track the timing, not the headlines. A dealer's fiscal pain is your discount. The longer they hold unsold inventory, the more leverage shifts to the buyer with patience and proof. Patience isn't free. It's profit. And once the right window opens, you'll need to know exactly what the real number looks like beneath the sticker. X-ray pricing. Every listing has two prices: the fantasy on the windshield and the truth at the auction block. To see through it, start with wholesale data. J.D. Power and Black Book both record actual sale prices from dealer networks and auctions. Let's walk through one example. A 2024 Bow Rider shows an MSRP of $129,995. That same model, lightly used, just cleared at an auction in Tampa for $101,000. Add 5% for transport and prep, and you land around $108,000 retail, the fair target. That's your ceiling, not your starting bid. The goal is to reverse engineer emotion into arithmetic. If a salesman starts with a story about demand, you counter with numbers and silence. A spreadsheet beats a smile every time. Knowing what the dealer actually paid through floor plan, financing gives you an edge they can't argue. Once you quantify the markup, you strip away the mystery and most of their leverage. Once you see through the sticker, emotion can't rob you. And now, it's time to use that clarity at the table. Leverage rules. Negotiation isn't a showdown, it's a sequence. Step 1 is inspection. Prove the boat's condition before discussing price. Step 2 is math. Reference real data and let the numbers speak first. Step 3 is the offer. A firm figure backed by proof, not a range. Step 4 is silence. Dealers rely on small talk to rebuild control, but silence is pressure they can't train against. Typical dealer margin on new inventory runs 12 to 15% before interest costs. Every extra week on the lot eats roughly 1 point of that margin. If you show up informed and willing to wait, the clock works for you. Interest rates are already squeezing their cash flow, which means quick cash buyers cut risk instantly. That's why flashing funds too early weakens your hand. Reveal it only when the deal is ready to close. Liquidity talks, but timing shouts louder. Cash isn't loud. It's leverage if you time it right. And knowing when to act is only half the battle. Knowing what to buy determines whether that leverage lasts. If you want the real numbers before the next wave hits, subscribe right now. I break down every crash, every discount, and every hidden deal before it reaches headlines. Winners versus sinkers. Not every segment sinks at the same speed. The survivors of this market aren't glamorous. They're simple, efficient, and cheap to run. Small outboards and aluminum fishing boats hold value because they cost little to store and maintain. Mid-size cruisers hover in the middle. Comfortable but still manageable. They'll fall in price this year but recover fastest once confidence returns. Then come the big twin diesel yachts, the so-called prestige class. They've lost up to 1/3 of their resale value in a single season. Fuel costs, insurance premiums, and marina fees make them financial anchors. Buyers chasing luxury will find their assets depreciating faster than they can enjoy them. The real winners are those who treat boating like a tool, not a trophy. Durability and simplicity keep you liquid when markets shift. And that's the only status that matters once the dust settles. Durability beats prestige, every time. And that mindset will matter even more as the broader system starts to tighten around credit and supply. Credit choke point. The next phase of this collapse won't come from the docks. It'll come from the banks. Since 2022, the average boat loan annual percentage rate has climbed from 4% to nearly 9%. That spike has doubled monthly payments for anyone trying to finance a new vessel. Lenders once eager to approve borderline applications are now declining them outright, citing elevated risk exposure. Refinancing, once a way out for struggling owners, has dried up entirely. When rates climb that far, loan-to-value ratios flip, and a borrower can owe more than the boat is worth by the second year. The result is a credit choke that starves both buyers and sellers. A dealer can't move inventory if no one qualifies for financing, and private sellers find their trade-in offers shrinking every month. This isn't theory. It's a cycle visible on every rate chart since the pandemic. When the lenders freeze, the buyers disappear. Again. And when sales vanish, the impact doesn't stop at the showroom door. Waterfront fallout. Walk any marina this summer and you'll see the ripple firsthand. Service technicians who once repaired a dozen engines a week now stand idle. Local papers in Florida, Michigan, and North Carolina report layoffs by the hundreds as repair yards close and storage facilities consolidate. Marinas built during the boom are defaulting on loans, leaving half-finished slips baking in the sun. Even cleanup costs are rising. Abandoned hulls left to sink or rot are straining local budgets. Counties along the Gulf Coast now spend tens of thousands removing derelict boats before they break apart and leak fuel. Each closure cuts deeper into waterfront economies that depend on steady seasonal work. Cafes, supply stores, and charter guides feel the downturn just as sharply as the builders. The boating slowdown isn't just a market issue, it's a community bleed. When the docks go quiet, the breakfast tables in every port town go quiet too. This isn't just boats, it's breakfast tables in every dock town. And whether that silence becomes permanent depends on what happens next. A reset or a reckoning. Reset or reckoning. The industry now stands at a fork. One path is a reset, production cuts, softer rates, and balanced inventory. The other is a reckoning, oversupply, tight credit, and weaker brands collapsing. The warning lights are clear. Watch the national clearance rate, factory backlog ratio, and repo trend. A clearance rate above 70% with shrinking backlogs signals recovery. Rising repos and flat backlogs mean decline. Each NMMA bulletin already shows the direction. The choice ahead is discipline or denial. Builders who flood the market again risk extinction. The next year isn't about selling boats. It's about surviving the debt they built. One number will flash first, and it's not on a press release. That signal decides who buys smart and who gets buried under optimism. Signal to strike. For the cautious buyer, opportunity doesn't come from rumor. It comes from tracking data. Your dashboard is simple. Follow the NMMA monthly update for production and sales divergence. Check regional auction volumes. If listings start shrinking week after week, prices have bottomed. Watch the dealer floor plan index released by finance firms. When their delinquency rate stabilizes, credit is thawing. Combine those three signals, and you'll see the market's pulse before anyone else. When all three align, falling inventory, stable credit, and steady auction clearances, that's your window. Wait roughly 3 more weeks after that alignment. Then negotiate while the panic lingers, but before demand returns. No influencer, ad, or salesman can replace those numbers. They tell the truth, quietly and consistently. Let everyone else chase headlines. You'll be reading the gauges. Wait 3 more weeks, track those rates, and buy smarter than the insiders. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and let the data steer you. So here's the bottom line. This isn't a clearance. It's a correction, and it's rewriting the entire boating market in real time. The next few months will separate the ones who panic from the ones who profit. If you want to stay ahead of the repos, the rate hikes, and the fake deals, hit subscribe right now. Because when the next wave hits, and it's coming, I'll show you exactly where the real opportunities are hiding.